Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Sales Hacker webinar. My name is Mikey, and we've got a wicked panel today, speaking about a topic that is actually, very top of mind for sales orgs and sales reps. So, really excited to get into it, and see what we can get going here. I know we got some people piling in here, slowly building it up. Let's give it a couple minutes here. Wait for everyone to get in. Yeah, this is going to be good. It's a great topic. Really excited, especially with what's going on in the world right now. I think we're gonna have some fun today. So the topic today, as everyone kind of piles in, I know you saw the promotion beforehand, but what we are focusing on today is planning pandemic-proof President's Club and SKO events in 2021. I know we all are wondering what that looks like moving into 2021. So I think we've got a great group of speakers here today that will be able to dive much deeper into the specific topic and how we're going to adapt to it. So we're just, people are still piling in. Okay, everything's working out here. Okay, it's a beautiful day here. I'm in Vancouver, Canada, so it's I know we got some different time zones all over the place. Tom's over in the UK, and Kevin's actually down in Cabo, which is beautiful. So it's good to get everyone together here. So appreciate all of that. Awesome. You got a lot of people coming in. Sweet. We got Mike from Wake Forest. Tamara coming in here. This is great. Okay, sweet. We got a lot of people coming in. This is going to be good. Okay, so before we get into the conversation and talk about it, let's just get a few little housekeeping things out of the way here. So I know through a lot of the webinars that I've been on, this is actually just to let everybody know, this is my first one, so I'm really stoked to be here. This is going to be good. You're going to see me a lot more moving forward. So this is going to be a good time. But just to start it off, I just wanted to get some housekeeping stuff out of the way. So a lot of the people that have come on to webinars, they wonder, is this recorded? All our webinars are recorded, so everyone that has registered or is here today will get a recording of the webinar. So, if there's anything you need to do, I know everyone's got stuff going on in the world. So if you've got appointments to be at, meetings to attend, kids to pick up or dogs barking in the background, please, it's all good if you need to hop off at any time or anything like that. You can always catch up on the conversation later on at a later date there. So all good. Obviously, we want you to stick as long as possible, but if you can't, that's totally cool. Secondly, we have, we do all of these webinars for our community, right? So we really want to make sure that this is the most engaging and successful kind of discussion that we can possibly make. So, we love it when the, people on the webinar or the live event here interact. So please, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's the Q&A portion of the Zoom. Please hop in there, ask any questions. We'll bring them up as we go through and answer it in real time, and get those addressed as quick as possible. Secondly, we have the chat as well. So we also love to know who we're rocking with. I've already seen some people kind of coming in here telling us where you're from. Jennifer from DC. We got Kirsten from Tampa, Amy from Colorado. So it's great to see everyone kind of coming in and seeing where everyone is coming from different areas around the world. So please let us know your name, where you're calling in from, and if you want to let us know what your title is, that'd be great as well. Okay, so I've got, I think, all the housekeeping's out of the way. Let's get into the good stuff, the juice. So I've got a great, incredible panel today. Really excited to be here. Really stoked to kind of kick off this webinar process. So today I've got Teri, Jeff, Tom, and Kevin on the line today. So really excited to have you guys. Welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be
Yeah,
here.
thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us,
Awesome.
Mikey.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I think I know we got some very experienced knowledge from the four of you in this specific topic with the SKOs and the President's Club topic. So I think we're gonna really get some good discussion going here. So before we hop into it, it'd be great to get a little bit more detail on the backgrounds of each and one of each of you guys. So I know a few of you have been on the webinars before, so I know the people that are on most of the webinars are familiar with you guys. But for those new people coming in to view today, it'd be great to just get a little bit of a background on what we like to call here at Sales Hacker your superhero origin story. So if you don't mind, Tom, do you mind starting off with giving us a bit of a rundown there?
And a superhero origin story. We're not as creative over here in the UK on those kind of things. Look, so yeah, Tom Castley. I'm Vice President of EMEA for Outreach, so I lead our international expansion. So I have a dispersed team, and they're very different because they all hail from different countries as opposed to different states. And so really interested to see where our discussion goes today in terms of motivation, remuneration, reward, and yeah, keeping everybody upbeat in this interesting climate.
Awesome. Yeah, totally. Thanks, Tom. Let's kick it over to Teri.
Hi, glad to be here. My name is Teri Turner. I'm from Reltio, and I'm in the global enablement group at Reltio, and I love my job. I love to be able to touch every single person in our company and help them with their incremental improvements every single day.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Thanks, Teri. I appreciate that. Let's go over to Jeff here.
Yeah, Jeff Austin from X Matters. I'm excited to be here. This is my first time being a panelist here with Sales Hacker. So excited to share the love with everyone. I've yet to learn to fly, so I can't call myself a superhero by any means. But I will say, I run sales operations, and I joke around often that the reason why I stay in sales operations is because I have the privilege of planning our President's Club trip, and that's a major perk for us. So I've got a thing called notrophobia right now. Not sure if anybody's heard of that, but no trip phobia. It's a real thing.
I totally agree. You're not alone. We just had a brief little for everyone out there. We had a little sync before the call here, and I was saying the same thing. It's like, oh, can't wait for the opportunity to hop onto a plane and get somewhere nice in the future. But awesome, Jeff. Thanks for being here. It's great to hear that we have another first on the Sales Hack webinar aside from myself. So awesome. Kevin, what's up, man?
Hey everyone, how you doing? My name's Kevin. I'm the co-founder of Blueboard. We're an experiential rewards and recognition platform, and super excited to be here. Kind of back on the Sales Hacker kind of webinar series. We started selling our business selling to HR, and once the pandemic hit, we got a lot of interest from our customers and from the market for President's Club. And so we've been really focused on delivering this awesome individual President's Club experience. So excited to hear from everyone today.
Cool. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. And just to shout out here, Blueboard sponsoring this webinar, it's a fantastic product there. So really cool to have you guys all here and dive deeper into this interesting topic that we don't really know what's going to happen in the coming future here. So with moving forward, really let's dive into it. Thanks for everybody for introducing yourself, giving the community a bit of a rundown on the backgrounds and so on. So I appreciate that. And moving into it, let's start it off with a brief kind of question here that I can ask the panelists. So I know that moving into 2021, everyone's working from home. We're trying to figure out how to motivate reps and keep them on the ball, especially when they're not in the office, being with that camaraderie and so on. to your guys's, knowledge, how have your team's motivation or motivators changed during this pandemic? Why don't we start off with Tom there?
Yeah. So, well, it's fundamentally different, isn't it? So, look, the layman among all of us would have just thought, well, if you just keep paying salespeople commission, they're happy. They don't need motivation. It's just a check at the end of the month. And, if COVID has taught us anything, this kind of separation, this isolation, has highlighted that simply isn't the case. And I kind of go back to my college days when going through Maslow's hierarchy of needs and Hertzberg's motivators and maintainers, and actually it now makes sense. We've had to turn up as managers and leaders and get creative again on how we create relatedness, belonging, motivation, room, energy, and have people feel like they belong, and it cuts to the core now. This isn't just about motivation. This is, for some people, it's about kind of mental survival.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. I can definitely relate. Great, thanks for that, Tom. Why don't we stick it over to Jeff? Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think, more than anything, motivators haven't necessarily changed. It's the mechanism in which we have to deliver them has changed. Our salespeople, to Tom's point, they're definitely coin operated. That's why they're in a sales role. But beyond that, what pushes them to the next level, what makes them kind of take those extra steps to be able to achieve even higher results, those are the mechanisms and pieces that, as a sales organization and sales leadership team, you have to now modify to be able to deliver in a way that the pandemic will allow us.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting kind of way to move forward and trying to figure out what is the best route to move forward and how we're going to do that. Definitely.
And of course, the other dynamic to that is not just kind of where we're at today, but today seems to change every couple of weeks. So just looking at the audience, I'm sure we've got a number of sales leaders in there, and they can relate to the fact, over the last few months, we've tried to be creative in terms of organizing events, and then the rules and regulations change from one week to the next or 1 month to the next. And what we thought was a great idea and everybody was really pumped up for and looking forward to suddenly gets pulled away. And so we're actually not just dealing with struggling motivations, but actually when you offer somebody up a light and then turn it out, the demotivational impact of that is significant. And I've colleagues in my network have been reeling at this inability to plan things with any element of certainty that gives them some form of ability to forecast motivational moments. It can be demoralizing for leaders as well as those folks who should be benefiting from these things.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I can only imagine what that feels like, right? Because having those incentives and those extra milestones that you can hit to offer your employees and stuff is something that we all try to strive to, and not being able to kind of have a hard set system in place, especially moving into 2021, it can be very demoralizing. I totally agree. Kevin, I saw you not in there. Do you have anything to add to that? Did we lose him?
I'll jump in there. I think there's
please, Teri.
There's also a challenge of keeping everybody motivated when we're not in the same room. So being online and motivating each other and celebrating those small wins really goes a long way. Also celebrating personal things in each other's lives, things that are happening, in important celebrations, birthdays, anniversaries, things like that. are also helping with, our emotions and keeping us motivated and happy and healthy in that way. So doing some fun things like dance contests and happy hours. And I know a lot of people are doing those, but keeping up on those and making sure that we're checking in with each other regularly has really helped our team be motivated until we can be back in the room together.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's
Yeah,
up, Mikey? I think I cut out there for a second.
Yeah.
But I do think, one of the things the pandemic has done is really highlighted weaknesses and strengths within a culture, right? And so, what we're seeing, in a lot of our teams, right, is, the idea of people supporting one another, of being highly collaborative, right? But we also, on the other end, are working on how to better communicate, right, with intentionality, because we're not able to rely on those in-person interactions that kind of fill the void and ambiguity, in communication. So I think the communication piece is especially important right now for folks.
Yeah, cool. No, I totally agree with that. That's a good point. And yeah, it's like in switching gears, do you think, like moving forward, a question on my end here, do you think it will ever, like, even, I know Tom was mentioning that, some people don't feel maybe comfortable, doing these kind of events or doing these in-person events. Do you think in 2021, in-person events will happen? Is there, what do you think that looks like? Do you think that's going to be a possibility, or do you think that's completely out of the question? Teri, what do you think on that?
There's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, we don't really know. There's a risk of planning for it and then it doesn't happen. And there's a risk of not planning for it and you can make it happen and then there's not enough time. So it's really being able to check and adjust to what's going on, but also keeping in mind, we want everybody to be healthy and we want to take that into account as well. So I think more people and more companies out there are going to be a little more staying back and waiting and really making sure the time is right to bring everybody back together. So we should be looking at every day as everyone says, the new normal, and being able to plan for every day, plan for remote events. And then as things open up, then we'll be ready.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And another thing too, like that I can add to that, or planning these events can be difficult too, because we don't really know how each person feels about the pandemic. Some people are a bit more, closed off or a bit more open to it also. It can be quite difficult around that as well. And I totally get that.
Yeah, and you have to take into account also international travelers. What may be okay going on in the United States may not be okay internationally. So have to keep a close eye on that around the world.
Definitely, totally. Yeah, I know it's tough. It's tough to be in that position. Jeff, I know you're in that position because you're the one that is in charge of X Matters President's Club. Do you have any kind of thoughts towards that?
It reminds me of the concept of the Stockdale paradox. Have you ever heard of that, Mikey?
I have not.
No. So to summarize, the Stockdale paradox is about an Admiral Stockdale who was a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War. He was a prisoner for 7 or 8 years, I think. And we talk at length about this as a leadership team here at X Matters, but the concept is facing reality. The difference between those that survived being a prisoner at war were those that didn't put false hope and false deadlines. So, for example, they'd say, by Christmas next year, I'm going to be out. I'm going to be with my family again, those types of things. Whereas, this Stockdale, he survived as long as, and the thing that he said that really helped him was facing reality. The reality is that, the pandemic's here. We have no idea when it's going to go. When there's going to be a vaccine or something that kind of causes those that, have a fear for travel right now or have a reason, high risk factors, those types of things. We have to, the reality is 2021, we're not sure what it's going to look like, but we need to plan as though travel's not going to be a thing.
Got it. Yeah, definitely. Do you think that will have a heavy impact on sales teams moving forward?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you think of President's Club by itself and the fact that, it's one of the, highest honors that a salesperson can achieve. They get their plaque, and then they get the opportunity to go on a trip and go places oftentimes that, you don't normally get to go to, or you may not splurge the same way if you're paying for yourself. So accounting for that and still being able to find ways to motivate people in a similar fashion, but again, the mechanism for delivery is going to be different. Yeah, it's definitely going to impact sales organizations.
Definitely. Yeah. I totally agree. I've never actually worked within an organization that actually had kind of a sales kickoff or a President's Club. So I've never had that luxury, but I could only imagine the incentive it could have been for sales reps out there. And I know I would have been very intrigued towards that idea. Awesome. Kevin, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's, right now and looking to the future, there's a really high premium on flexibility, right? Everyone wants the perfect program and they have this kind of vision in their mind, but right now, like building for flexibility is perfect, right? Because there's so much uncertainty, right? Mm-hmm. I think, what you touched upon earlier is that, there's different risk profiles, right? Between, offices, in different countries and just people in general, right? And you want to make sure that President's Club feels inclusive, because you certainly don't want to kind of ostracize any of your top performers. And so I think right now, how do you build in incredibly flexible programs given this changing environment that sometimes feels different every couple weeks?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I know, and that's like, I can only imagine the challenge that is. I'm going to throw another one at you here, Kevin. So let's talk about these programs. We all know that they are very valuable. The camaraderie between the sales teams and getting together with your peers and networking and meeting all the influencers and so on. What else do you think, and why do you think these programs are so valuable over, say, just a cash incentive or something like that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what we're hearing from our customers and from the market is that there's really 3 value points that companies want to touch upon and deliver. They want to deliver this amazing recognition experience to their top folks, right? These are their top people. You want to keep them engaged. The second piece is, we also, when we launch this, we want this to be a great incentive. How do we get the most people motivated to really strive to qualify? And then the last piece, what you talked about is kind of getting people together in that culture aspect. And so what we've been trying to dig in with folks is, how would you stack rank those priorities? We see that they kind of rank differently for each organization. And from there, right, given this new environment, how do you deliver on those priorities? And so, Teri, I would love to hear, I guess, how you all at Reltio have thought about those 3 priorities and what you're looking to kind of deliver right now.
Yeah, really, at the end of the day, Kevin, President's Club and Kickoff is all about how we make our employees feel. At Kickoff, we're building relationships, we're building that excitement for the upcoming year. And at President's Club, you're celebrating those successes and you're participating in some world-class experiences, like you said, you might not otherwise have. So we're working really hard to make sure both of those still happen. We're still creating that excitement. We're still building relationships, even if they're online or over the phone, even calling each other more than we ever have before. But we really want to make sure, like you said, we're building some world-class experiences when it comes to Kickoff. And we still are including some of those key things that employees talk about after Kickoff that they really appreciated, like creating those relationships or building on those relationships.
Definitely. No, that's fantastic. And I know that's, I can only imagine how difficult that is, you know, not being face to face. How do you think, you know, a lot of from, you know, from what I've heard from other people that have been to President's Club and sales kickoffs, it's, you know, they're obviously the workshops, the presentations, the talks are fantastic and you learn a lot from that. But I feel like a lot of the, you know, the value that comes from these, you know, sales kickoffs as well as, you know, President's Club is, you know, the banter, talking to, you know, your colleagues, you know, going out, going to the bar or something like that, and, you know, going back and forth. How do we replicate that in a virtual way, you know, to add that kind of value that, you know, the actually in-person events could offers all of these different, you know, sales reps and so on. Tom, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so look, as it relates to something like an SKO, the actual event of an SKO and the presentation, the material, the training, my sense is that that reps and companies are getting better at setting those up, and folks are getting better at consuming the content. You know, they're not doing a whole day, 9 hours on Zoom. You know, they're breaking it out over a period of days and weeks. Probably not weeks, but certainly days. Putting into bite-sized chunks. So the core element of getting some information across and setting people up for the year, that's not my concern. My concern is exactly the point that you made there, which is all of the ancillary elements. You know, it's true. We're a fast-growing business. There's nearly 40% of the sales team I've never met, and they've never met anybody else. So, you know, cultural alignment of those people. How do you protect against cultural creep? Well, one of the things about an SKO is that centering of people around a set of core values and behaviors, not just the motivation, not just, you know, giving them and the celebration components. You know, the awards and giving those out. It's, there are going to be some growing up moments for us as we, you know, as we go into next year, as we learn what works and what doesn't. And actually, what I hope is, you know, by using companies like, you know, Kevin's and stuff, is we actually might find some things that stick for future years, and actually is an upgrade. If there's anything I've seen from sales teams in the past, they're always good at finding ingenious new ways of doing things when backed into a corner. And you're already seeing some of that come about already. I just in the chats, you know, being flexible enough to do, you know, local events and sensitive to that. Well, that takes an organization skill. So Jeff's going to be twice as busy trying to plan 50 different smaller events rather than one big one. But yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
And Mikey, I can talk to an activity that we've been going through that kind of replaces that kickoff, getting together and getting to know each other. We've got a new CEO that just joined the company, and he's introduced something called Journey Line Initiative. And he's sharing his story of his life journey and how the different experiences have shaped him and his core values, both personally and professionally. And it started from the CEO, and it's now going through the executive staff and through every person in our company sharing their journey lines with each other. And it's amazing how we're getting to know each other and learn about each other, things that we had no idea. We may have worked with somebody for 10 years and had no idea of some of the things that they're sharing really personally in these journey lines. It's been a very exciting initiative through the company. And I think that helps us get to know each other more on a personal level and a professional level, and be able to share our core values with each other that normally we would do at a kickoff.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And yeah, and I love that. That's fantastic, because that's another big thing too, right? Is being able to interact with those, you know, higher executives within the company, and being able to, you know, talk to them and actually get that one-on-one time with them. So I love that idea.
One of the, Mikey, for, you know, it's
please.
interesting. Some of our customers, what they're doing, right, for President's Club specifically, right, in order to kind of, you know, almost like make sure that, you know, these top achievers have access to leadership. They're setting up dedicated time around mentoring with the VP of sales, with the CRO, so that they can get, you know, one-on-one, you know, sometimes it's, you know, 3-4-on-1 time where they could actually talk about their career. I think what's interesting that, you know, one person brought up is that, hey, like, there is this rubbing of elbows kind of at the bar and getting to know them, but there's not as much like, hey, career kind of coaching and development happening on the club trips as much, right? It's more about kind of the personal relationships, which is important, but, you know, in this sense, it's like very dedicated time specifically focused on one's career. So yeah, people have said that kind of early feedback has been really good and positive on those types of programs.
Awesome. No, that's fantastic. And I could definitely see that being extremely beneficial too, right? Just getting that one-on-one time. Jeff, I know you obviously are a big fan of the President's Club. Why do you think it's, why is it so valuable to you, in your personal opinion?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how many of you have had the experience of being out on a sales floor in an office where a handful of individuals just got back from President's Club. Just listening to them tells you everything you need to know about how valuable President's Club is, right? Like the banter, the conversation that goes on, even for our company, we're not a very large organization. We've got about 300 people across the company. But the fact that you have an opportunity to go and spend time with leadership and not just, in a work setting, but also get to know them personally. You get to meet their significant other and learn a lot about, who they are as a person. So, the concepts that go into that culturally, the benefits that come into that culturally, as well as the motivation for the exclusive event, the beautiful locations that you get to go to, the 5-star, 5-diamond type treatment that it provides. It just creates this kind of residual effect of sales reps having conversation after conversation. And then when you reveal the new location, everybody's super anxious and talking about the opportunity to go to that new location. So I think it's just a compounding effect that occurs.
Yeah, definitely. And, I can only imagine how exciting that is. Awesome. Cool. Okay, sweet. That's great. So moving on, now that we're trying to figure out how to, create or replicate these, President's Club and SKOs, the way they used to be, especially in this, work from home virtual kind of environment. What are, and also think of it like this, a lot of people or a lot of companies, they thought in 2020, okay, we're going to push our SKO or our President's Club to 2021, right? We think it's going to be fine then, everything's going to be okay. But now we're hearing that in 2021 that it's not going to happen anymore. So what are the options? What are the pros and cons? What do you keep your plans? Do you, rebook? Do you drop it entirely? Do you offer other kind of cash incentives or something else? What do you think that looks like? And I'll kick that off to Teri.
Boy, I think, there are pros and cons, and I talked a little bit about earlier about waiting versus moving forward. What's most important is to adapt and plan and deliver beyond their expectations. Be able to adapt to whatever you need to, and do the best you can and make it the best you can in the situation that you're in. For us, we took additional time to listen to our employees through feedback and conversations and surveys, and made sure to get input. And we want to make sure to take that input and put it into our planning. So a lot of conversations have been had both around Kickoff and both around President's Club to make sure that our employees knew that they were heard, and we're still making sure that we let them know that their health and their well-being is our priority one, regardless of what we're doing, either for Kickoff or for President's Club. Awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Yeah,
I think,
definitely.
Mikey, I can talk a little bit more on that too, because we, our President's Club trip is typically in May. And so this past May, everything kind of had just barely started to get to the point where there was travel bans and classified as a global pandemic. In that case, we didn't have the luxury that we do now. We have an opportunity now to plan and to have an alternative option. So in our case, what we ended up having to do is pushing the actual trip. We were planning on going to Anguilla. We pushed Anguilla back a year to 2021, and we were able to use the force majeure as the reasoning. Right now, the con to that is now we have kind of this legal waiting game per se that we have to sit through and see what happens, and will there still be a pandemic classification that will allow you to get out of your contract. But the benefit, like I said, is the fact that you can now plan your alternative. You have months and months, if not a year, to be able to think about what plan B looks like. And that's where, things like individual experiences and being able to tap into things that will still motivate, accomplishes all the same things that President's Club does.
Did I just lose you there, Jeff?
We lost his audio for a moment. Yeah.
We did. Okay. I wasn't
last-
sure if that was just me or if it was Jeff. No, definitely. And yeah, that's a fantastic point there, Jeff. So I just got a question from someone, Jennifer Flather. Jeff, can you elaborate? Do you have any kind of examples of what Plan B looks like? I think your audio is. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Continue.
Can you hear me now?
You're all
Sorry.
good. You're all good.
Okay. Yeah, I think we don't have anything solidified yet in terms of what Plan B looks like. We have a lot of interesting ideas. Most of them, like I said, are around individual options. So providing 5 or 6 different options or alternatives for people to choose from in the case that we can't go on our trip to Anguilla. They then have the ability to say, for example, an option could be a trip with them and their significant other by themselves, because from a risk perspective, they want to.
I think we lost you again there, Jeff.
And I can jump in and talk about Plan B, because for us, we actually pivoted to Plan B and wanted to give something and not wait too long to be able to celebrate our folks. Otherwise, we're going to be rolling President's Club into President's Club into President's Club. So what we did was we wanted to give them choices to knock out things of their bucket list, whether they're traveling far away or maybe they choose to stay close to home. But whatever they choose, we wanted them to feel like they were being catered to throughout the whole process. And that's why we chose Blue Board, was they were the ones that had those choices that we could give to our employees. So there's been a lot of different choices for them, and it's very exciting to see the choices that they're making, and all for different reasons. A big surprise to me has been how personal their choices have been to them. Some of them have chose to make donations to charity. Some of them had chose to remodel part of their house that they've been waiting to do for a long time, and now is the right time for them to do it. Some of them are jumping in an RV and creating family memories and driving across Europe. But each one of those choices are personal to them for different reasons, and I think that's what makes it most exciting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. And creating Plan B, Teri, I know you guys did that and you're using Blue Board there. What was that process like? How are you still, through Plan B delivering on your core goals from, an SKO or a President's Club there?
For President's Club, we've rolled out our President's Club almost every one of them from President's Club have made their selection of what the experience they want, and they are in the planning stages right now. So I talked a little bit about the different experience each one of them has. And then what we'll do is, as each of them are completing their experiences, whether it's this year or next year, whenever they're comfortable doing their experience, we'll bring all that back together and share that across the organization with pictures, with tweets and stories about what they did and what they experienced, and that will create the excitement of doing it again next year. So we're working really closely with Blue Board on that, of making sure that they're happy throughout the whole experience. We want to make sure it's an A+ experience across the board, and then re-roll it out next year. For Kickoff, that one's still a little bit more in the early stages, but being able to get the feedback from different parts of the organization of what do they want of Kickoff, what do they want to experience, how they want it to be different, even though it's virtual. And again, take that input and then get those people involved in the process. And I think that's really important too, is the more you include them in the process for Kickoff, the more engaging they're going to be, the more they're going to really grab onto the content and the experience that they're in, and the more likely they're going to be accepting of a virtual experience versus an in-person experience.
Got it. Awesome. That's fantastic. It's cool to see how you guys are adapting there. And Kevin, to add to that, I know you obviously are quite familiar with a lot of orgs and how they're adapting to Plan B. Do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I have lots. I think, what everyone's trying to do right now is like, how do we capture that feeling of club, right? There's this excitement, there's this buzz, there's this there's connection. Really what we've focused on at Blue Board is like 3 main phases, right? The first is like anticipation, right? How does a company kind of launch an exciting program? It may not be the same, but it's still equally exciting, but different, right? And we really focus on that kind of personalized experience, right? The second piece is that, with the anticipation, every employee that qualifies is going to have like this high touch, white glove service from our concierge to plan their experience, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So we really focus on that piece to like build that excitement, to replicate that feeling of club, right? They go on the experience. People are, doing things from, renting RVs to, getting, working remotely in Cabo like myself, right? So there's all these different experiences. And the last piece is like, how do you build the afterglow, right? The buzz once it all happens, right? And so, we're creating kind of digital hubs, right, where people are highlighting kind of their stories, their experiences, and they're able to kind of share that with others. And so, one of the things that has recently come up is like at the end of every club, right, this one company really likes getting a really nice picture, and then they use that picture to launch next year's location, right? And so one thing that they're doing is they're taking pictures from all the different Blue Board experiences that their people are going on. They're stitching it together, and then they're relaunching kind of next year's program once they have all of that media. And so finding ways to, do something similar but different in order to achieve kind of those goals.
Got it. Cool. Oh, that's fantastic. And to add to that, we actually got a question from the community here from Alexandra. How can we offer all these options when we're already locked into an agreement? What does that look like if you are, solidified in a certain way? How do you, work around that? Jeff, I think I'll put that over to you because I think you might be somewhat in this position here.
Yeah, we're definitely in the position. And can you hear me better now? I had to switch audio sources here.
Yeah, you're all good. Okay,
good. Yeah, we're definitely in that position. We're contracted to go to Anguilla this upcoming year. In the case, the reality is your contract likely has some type of exit clause, and that exit clause probably has something to do with a global pandemic classification. So I'd first explore that and make sure that there are there is an ability for you to be able to get out. Otherwise, the likelihood is that you're going to need to push the date and see if you can work on pushing the date out. There's tons of cons to that. We've talked about that already. I think Teri covered that in detail about kind of moving the dates out and the negative effect that has. But you can still plan and put together a plan B in terms of like those individual events, the individual pieces, and not be obligated to those until you actually gift them per se. So, that's where I think the planning phase here, you have an opportunity to go and to prepare for the case that you're not able to travel, and put together those individual experiences, but not be obligated to them until you're ready to gift them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Tom, what do you think on that note in terms of, have you experienced anything along those lines and, locked into an agreement and trying to figure out how to offer these other new options?
Yeah, you just kind of have to beg and plead with finance that we can park that money and can we have some more for the stuff we can do in the meantime. If you can't get out to the agreements, as Jeff was saying, on the majority of occasions for last year, we've been able to, and we may have delayed till next year. But if next year's not going to happen, we need to come up with an alternative. And look, in preparation for this, I kind of went out to my network as well to just kind of ask what's going on. And there's been some interesting traits that's coming back to think about. So number one is the people who are going to qualify for President's Club this year are not the usual people. Not only has selling changed, but effectively the playing field got leveled in that we all became inside sellers overnight. So the people who had all of the networks were good at dinners, visiting clients, and all of those softer skills. They don't have them at their disposal anymore. So there's a new breed of people who are going to qualify for President's Club, and those folks may not necessarily be motivated by the same things. Mm-hmm. So we need to get our thinking hats on. The second is time flies when you're having fun. And what I'm hearing from a lot of people, and I reflect with it as well, is this year's taking a long while. The thought of having to wait a year for this big behemoth President's Club is so I'm now looking at quarterly awards that still meet all of the kind of the mandate of what Kevin's saying. It still needs to be memorable. It still needs to have anticipation. It's emotional. It's not just cash based. But to give people things to look forward to from quarter to quarter, and also to help us with the change management that's going on. We have so many competing objectives here around. President's Club is about delivering revenue. Well, how we deliver revenue from one quarter to the next is changing now. So actually, I'd like to use a tool that motivates us through these waters. So. Be aware that you're going to have different people qualifying. So it's not the same audience you're looking to please. And number two is I would encourage everybody when we're being creative and trying to level this up for a foreseeable future, at least the next year, think about multiple presidents. Can I have a quarterly club? Mm-hmm. And if I make two in a row, I get something extra from that. Like they build up. There's a huge amount of innovation and potential that we can come out here. And actually, that's some of the things I'm looking at for Q4 and then going into Q1, Q2 for next year is how do we layer these up?
Mikey, can I add on to that too? I think we've gone through something similar where we have a sales kickoff at the beginning of the year, like most do. We also have a mid-year training that usually was in person halfway through the year, and it was usually specific for the sales and marketing organizations. We're right in the middle of doing that mid-year training right now. So the things that we did to prepare for that training was, obviously it's 100% remote. We couldn't do anything in person like what we used to do. So we sent out a survey and asked for feedback in terms of, what do you want to see in your kickoff experience or your mid-year experience this time? What training topics are important to you? But beyond that, opening it up besides just the training element, the cultural components of getting together are lacking. So what are some ideas around, having fun and getting to know people better. And there was really great things that came as a result of the survey. Your people, for everyone that's attending, your people will have those ideas and will be able to express with you what's most important. But a couple of things that I think have been really beneficial this go around. First is shortened sessions. We don't do anything longer than an hour. So, and I think fatigue on meetings is a real thing right now. Everybody's tired of doing what we're doing right now and doing it for a long extended time. So shorten them. Don't do anything longer than an hour. The other thing was we brought in a magician, which you would think a magician on a Zoom would be really challenging, but it was the coolest thing. And actually my kids came into the room. They were watching the entire thing as we're going as well. It was a really cool experience. And the chat was more interactive for that than any of the trainings that we did. So the banter and kind of communication that occurred in the background was really awesome. And then the second thing was we brought in some musicians and they just talked. It was nothing work related, kind of like the magician. They talked about their experiences with being able to be creative during a pandemic. And, again, those are similar things that you tend to have with your evening events, with your kickoff. Sometimes you have motivational speakers that come in. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do. But I would highly encourage not making anything longer than an hour.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more because you're very right in terms of the Zoom fatigue. We're always in front of the screen. So the less we have to do that, maybe the better, right? So that's great there. Teri, I've got a question for you. I know you started off with your kind of your new virtual President's Club with Blueboard, as well as working out that SKO. How did you find to gain leadership buy-in in these new programs? Were there some specific learnings that you want to share with the group that you found over that kind of transition period?
Yeah, sure. I think the key is to reach out to both executive level, but also employees to get their feedback and find out what's important to each one of them. I talked a little bit about including them in the process as well, and I think that is very, very important. And the survey, I mean, you can't beat it with the survey of giving them the opportunity to stack rank what's important to them. We kind of talked about that as well, but the feedback and the interaction back and forth of what they would like to see is going to be your best bet of, it's not what you want them to know and what you want them to experience. It's getting them to provide you information of what's going to make them happy and combining both of those. What do you need them to know? And then what do they want to know? Marry those two to be able to give a really great experience.
Yeah, fantastic. No, I love that. And, that's I guess that's the best way in order to figure out exactly how, we're going to be able to adapt in these new virtual events and so on. So what do you think, I guess this can be a question for the entire group, and I'll put it over to Tom to start off. What do you think, success will look like out of these new events? What do you, I know the Afterglow is a massive component to it, but are there any other kind of elements that you think would kind of really express the success of these, new sales kickoffs and President's Club kind of alignment there?
Yeah, so, and I was just only because a number of people in the chat have been talking about, can we talk about SKOs as well as President's Club? So we're right on SKO planning at the moment. 2 or 3 things we've learned from this year, which I would say drive success. Number one is whenever you have an SKO, you always have the fun in the evening. If it's a virtual online event, you have the fun in the morning. You get people fired up first. And then the attendance to the fun is a lot higher and it gets people upbeat, ready for the presentations. 2 is, as Jeff said, we keep the sessions short. We're down to 30 minutes, unless there's breakout rooms. Now you could do an hour if there's breakout rooms, but you have to double, if not triple, the amount of time people are in breakout rooms, as long as you make those breakout rooms random. The amount of catching up and chatting that people are doing, we were doing like half-hour breakout rooms. The first 15 minutes, completely unproductive, getting to meet new people. And then in the second 15 minutes, you kind of deal with your little breakout task. And the first time we did it, we had the breakout rooms for like 10, 15 minutes. So it's being sensitive to the new medium and actually flipping the fun in front of the work, whereas it used to be the other way around.
Got it. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, that's fantastic. I love the stuff we've been talking about today. It's been great. I know this is a huge topic moving into 2021 as we have to adapt. So I really appreciate everyone being on this webinar, being here with me today, and talking in more depth here. I know we're running out of time here, but right before we go, I wanted to do one quick thing. We're going to run a quick poll. And what we're going to be asking here is, we got Blueboard on board here, and they will love to hook you up with some helpful resources that'll make life easier through the transition. So we're gonna run this quick poll to see what you guys think there. I'll do it shortly here. It'll be about 30 more seconds. But it's been fantastic talking to you guys. Really great diving into this specific topic there. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time and being here and sharing your thoughts and your knowledge and your expertise with the community. So again, thank you very much. Just gonna quickly end this poll here, and we're gonna share the results. Would you like to learn more about pivoting your President's Club or SKO? And we got about 50% here saying yes, very interested, would love to learn some more around that. So as we know, very, very relevant topic. People are very interested, want to learn more. But as of for today, I want to thank you guys again for hopping on the webinar, and you'll be seeing me a lot more moving forward. Jeff, Tom, Kevin, Teri, thank you so much for being here, being on all different time zones and making it work. It's been fantastic, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time today.